Greetings, my name is Alia and you're listening to the Pixie Dust Podcast. I am a mentor that focuses on the subconscious mind and subconscious healing, specifically when it comes to manifesting and creating the reality that you want. I'm so excited because this is my first episode. I have just started my business and I'm in the process of launching a website that will hopefully dive even deeper into the stuff that we're going to talk about in this podcast. If you want to work with me, you can check out the information in the description. I am quite a spiritual person, to be honest, and really lean into spiritual and religious and really lean into the concepts of identity and how they massively influence the way that we perceive and go about our reality. But actually for me, when I first started on this journey very many years ago, the first thing that I learned about was presence. And this episode today is going to be talking about that as a kind of a baseline, as kind of a solid foundation. It's called Everything is a Spiral because essentially when we're on this journey of growth, what people tend to find is that they keep repeating or coming back to the kind of the same ideas, and it's something that I noticed within myself. Like I remember saying to a friend, why is it that no matter what block I'm experiencing or whatever lesson I'm being exposed to, it always comes back to the same thing, which is surrender, love, acceptance, detachment. It's always those things that's the key component to dealing with whatever thing is happening in my current reality. And I think it's really important to know that when it comes to mindset work, having a solid foundation within the spirit and within the self is really important before you want to try and manifest. Because the truth is, and this is something that, I'm going to drop a load of like books and other things that have helped me. You know The Secret by Rhonda. I'm going to butcher the surname, so I'm not going to say it. She talks about how when it comes to law of attraction and it comes to these concepts, the people higher up have always known these things and they've always known how it works and how to accumulate that kind of abundance and that kind of wealth. But the difference is that because of the type of people that they are and the energy that they operate on, which is a very like scarcity mindset, a very like hoarding energy. A lot of the people who do manifest and accumulate lots of wealth, like Jeff Bezos, etc., they have this energy of like, it's mine. There's not enough for everybody. I need to keep it to myself. I've worked really hard for this, so why should everyone else get this as well? And that comes a lot from identity, and it comes a lot from where you start on your foundation. They say that anyone can manifest, and it's true. Anyone can manifest no matter where you are, no matter what you're doing, because you're manifesting all the time already. You're constantly manifesting. When you create a belief and you create a thought system, it's drawing that into your reality. When it comes to manifestation, I think the truth is some people struggle with these concepts of manifestation because they don't get the whole point of manifestation, which is that you're never desiring the thing. You're never wanting the house or the money or the relationship or whatever it is. You're wanting the feeling that it brings. I know that a lot of what I'm saying is kind of basic, but I think it's important to A, establish that foundation, and then B, talk about why. When it comes to manifestation, the key is the feeling. And so when we're fully surrendered into the now, when we're fully present in the now, we can call those things in. That's what, again, I'm going to name drop, Abraham Hicks talks about when she talks about the receiving mode. She talks about the fact that when you're living in the receiving mode, you're in this state where you're calling things in. You're not resisting anything. You're just naturally allowing things to flow. To be fully surrendered in the now is to find the total bliss in each moment that you have. Now, for me, the reason why I'm talking about this as well is because of the concept of what it means to level up on this journey, and how the more you level up, the deeper you go into your subconscious mind, the deeper the blocks are, because some of these blocks, especially the deepest ones, are coming from childhood. They're coming from those really deeply rooted beliefs. It's common knowledge within child psychology that from the ages of 0 to 7, that's when you form your core beliefs. And after the age of 7, it's cemented. All your beliefs are formed. Obviously, you can develop new ones, but the core belief systems, your identity, the way you operate as a person has been formed from those ages. So those core beliefs are things that as you get on to later in life and you realize there are things that are holding you back, they stem from those ages, and the deeper you go, the more work is required for you to delve into those. Before you try and do anything, the key concept is having strength of spirit, is being able to actually manage your emotions, manage your reactions, recognize how to feel into emotions rather than just resist them. Allow yourself to feel things consciously and smoothly so that you're not rejecting, you're not trying to resist, you're not trying to feel like I shouldn't be crying or I shouldn't be feeling this. You allow yourself to feel everything, but you have the strength of spirit to be able to handle and manage those emotions so that they don't completely overwhelm you and take over your life. And that also comes with reacting as well, and how we react versus responding. And there are so many ways that you can develop presence. I mean, my number one drawback is Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. Because that book really changed my life, and that's kind of where things started to click for me. I was like, oh, that makes sense. And I started to really pay attention to my presence and really pay attention to the now. I remember looking at a tree and being totally aware of it breathing and like taking in again, science, not my forte, but taking in the carbon dioxide and breathing it out, and like how we're doing the same thing. And it allowed me to be like, well, a tree, no matter what's going on around it, is still. It's structured. It remains still. And I was like, well, that's what presence of mind is being still. By being totally focused on the present, you allow more of that feeling that feeling of just bliss. When I'm talking about bliss, I'm not talking about happiness. Happiness, sadness, these are fleeting emotions. They come, they go. They don't exist in a state of permanency. But what your soul essence is, who you are at the core level, is bliss, is peace, is surrender. Those things are you're capable of feeling no matter what. Honestly, the main thing I would say is meditation. It requires so much discipline. I've been doing it on and off for like the past 5 years. And only in the past year have I been doing it consistently every day. So it does require discipline, but it creates this total solid foundation. And so the way that I'm going to relate this is the fact that in herbal medicine, one thing that they tend to do is they tend to give you a medicine that kind of purges you out. It like exposes and brings out all the toxins so that you can get to the next stage of like completely clearing it out and then healing. And that's kind of what subconscious work is doing, is that it's like purging everything out so that you can get to the next stage of healing. However, if your body cannot handle a purge, you can't do that. You have to pause it. For example, I went on herbal medication for my eczema and it totally just wrecked me up, my body and everything. And I think partly that was due to my mind as well. I wasn't strong within the mind. Mind and body connection is totally real. I had to stop that medication because I wasn't strong enough to handle it. Cut to now, I mean, alhamdulillah, when it comes to this kind of stuff, I'm better thanks to, the stuff that we're talking about, subconscious mind work. But yeah, when it came to then working on my mind, having that strength of spirit is really important. For example, yes, like I said earlier, anyone can manifest. But manifestation, calling something in that you want, is one step of it. The core concept of manifestation is to understand who you are at your core level, understand and connect to your soul and your spirit, become one with what's around you, and recognize that there is no such thing as the 3D. It's all an illusion, and you aren't separate from any of it. And to truly become present and accepting of all of that, that's really the goal. And the manifestation and calling in stuff, it is an added bonus, It's great to receive things that you want. It's not the purpose. It's not the goal. And I think that that's really important to know. And so for me, on my journey, the main thing has been connecting closer to God. I will note here, I am going to address this in a couple episodes' time when I talk about the ego and the soul. But it is really important to know what I mean by God, because I am religious, I'm Muslim. This idea of the label itself, it can really deter some people because of their own personal bias. But it's still the same thing regardless of what you want to call it. If you want to call it the universe, then call it the universe. If you want to call it God, then call it God. I call it Allah, subhanahu wa ta'ala. Some people call it, God, Buddha, whatever, I don't know. It's the same thing. So yeah, connecting closer to God, connecting closer to your own spirit, it's just so important, like that's the goal, really. So I have ADHD, by the way, so if you're listening to this podcast expecting it to have some coherent flow, this is coherent as it's gonna get. Other concepts and other ways that we can practice presence in our lives. So obviously meditation is really important, and that does require discipline. So even if it's just 5 minutes a day, anything is fine. A lot of people think, sitting down in silence, closing your eyes, although some schools do recommend you keep your kind of eyes open and just sort of softly fixed on something. The reason they say that is because, in your everyday life, you're not going to have your eyes closed, you're going to have your eyes open. So by meditating with your eyes open, you're allowing yourself to train yourself to be able to deal with those types of situations. I mean, I personally do it with my eyes closed, but it really, it's each to their own. But the key is that when you're sitting there and you're meditating, kind of people think, okay, well, I'm going to get totally in control of my thoughts. I'm going to be focused on this one thing. And that's just not how it works. You're thinking all the time. So to have this idea that you're going to suddenly sit down for 5 minutes and those thoughts are just going to, after a while, that's inaccurate. The point is that what you're doing is you're sitting there and you're observing the thoughts. You're allowing the thoughts to come, but you're not attaching yourself to them. You recognize that, okay, these thoughts that are running around in my head, they're not me. And so I can just sit there and I can just observe them. I don't have to attach. I don't have to think, when I have this thought, I don't have to start thinking about all the different other thoughts that could be associated with this. I can just be aware of it. A nice analogy for that is, this is from Headspace. Imagining you're on the side of a road and you're staring at the cars, and the cars are like the thoughts and they're rushing by, and you're just on the side of the road watching the cars go by. Or your mind is a sky. That's a really popular one. Your mind is a sky and the clouds are going past and the clouds are the thoughts. Ultimately, the mind is still there, but you're not resisting your thoughts. You're not saying the thoughts shouldn't be there. You're just observing them. But if you want more help with that, I would definitely recommend Headspace. That's what I started, and it was so good at allowing me to become the observer. But yeah, there are other ways that you can practice presence, like simply just being aware of your surroundings. So 5 senses. So what can you see? What can you smell? What can you taste? What can you touch? Feel. Looking at your surroundings, like the trees. I know I talked about trees before. I love trees. I think they're great for presence. The sky, if you're in your room, if you're in a building, the chairs, I don't know, anything. Even if it's mundane, it allows you to come back to the present moment. And when you're in the present moment, you start to realize that the past and the future that you've been attached to is not real. And so then you can allow yourself, even if you're not on the highest vibration, which is totally fine, we're not always on the highest vibration, you can allow yourself to just simply sit and surrender and be like, okay, even if I'm on this sort of lower end of the frequency scale, I'm still present, I'm still here. A good question to ask is there anything wrong in my reality right now? And the thing is, if there is something that's bothering you right now, you can deal with it. It's a situational thing that you can handle. You remove yourself from the situation, you can accept the situation, or you can change the situation. But if there's nothing that's actually wrong right now, if you're thinking about, oh, well, in 5 minutes I need to go here, that's not now. That's not now. You can deal with in 5 minutes when 5 minutes comes. Do you know what I mean? It's not now. And so understanding that, okay, this thing that's happening in 5 minutes or blah, 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 it's not important. The only thing that matters is now. And so when you bring yourself into that surrounding, you start to recognize there is no problem to deal with. There is no thing that I need to be thinking about. There's situations that I can handle when they arrive, but there's nothing to worry about. So the reason why I'm talking about presence as the foundational thing in terms of this journey is because it comes back to strength of mind. Because when you have strength of mind and when you have strength of spirit, you are able to handle and manifest and create a lot easier than if you just kind of jump into it and start affirming and start scripting and visualizing before you have strength of mind. Because when things show up, they don't stay. because you can't handle it, because you're reacting again and you're not within your spirit and you're not strong within your sense of spirit. And so the key here is that when you can build that solid foundation within yourself, then it allows for those other things, like even if things show up in your reality that, you know, you don't 100% want, you are able to handle them better because you have that strength of spirit. I mean, there are so many other ways to practice presence, and it is something that I do offer within my services as part of subconscious rewiring that's added into it, because it's so intrinsically a part of rewiring our mindset and our beliefs. It's actually so important, and it's something that I think people either they kind of forget or they lose it, which is totally normal. So have I. Like I said, I've been doing it for the past 5 years. Only in the past year have I been like consistent every day. It's natural, but it's just so intrinsically vital for creating your reality, but also learning how to become the person that has all those things that you want, learning how to become stronger in your mind and all of those other things. So yeah, it's very body movement. It's very like coming into the senses. It's recognizing, like, if I'm brushing my teeth, I'm not doing anything else. I'm brushing my teeth. I'm totally aware. I'm totally present in that moment. Those things, those little things, it all adds up. It's also really interesting, actually. I will say one other thing. When I first started on the journey of manifestation, I had every single one of my friends ask me this question, which was, how does being present and being in the now, which is it's actually also a very vital concept of pretty much all the religions as well. It's like being present. I mean, I love it. In Islam, we have to pray 5 times a day. God is literally telling us 5 times a day, minimum, you better be present. You know what I mean? It's an obligation. How does doing that marry up with manifesting your desires? Because isn't manifesting your desires in the future? The thing is, and this is where people don't realize, is that it's the same thing. Because whatever it is that you're trying to manifest, first of all, in the quantum field, which, if you know about quantum physics, it's this idea of how there are multiple versions and realities happening all at the same time, and based on your beliefs, you're kind of shifting into them. So in the quantum field, what's happening is that those things that you're desiring, you're desiring them because they already exist now. What you're desiring, like I said, is just a feeling. It's just that feeling of either it's love, and I mean like unconditional love. I don't mean like romantic or platonic. I mean love as a baseline. Or it's security, safety, freedom. Those things that you're wanting, the root of them is those emotions. When you're in the present moment, you're tapping into that feeling, because you can sit in it. You can sit in that feeling of freedom and surrender and love, because it's the baseline of who you are. And when you're present and you're meditating and you're in that state, you can recognize that and you can feel into it and you're at one with it. And so it allows you to be in what they call that receptive mode that calls those things in. I will not tell you the amount of times that I have manifested because of that state. And it's the easiest way to manifest. For example, I love telling this story, but it's just such a crazy story because I really wanted to work in a bookshop. And I remember when I was like 13, 14, I would always go to Camden and I'd always go to this one bookshop. I would always go there whenever I went to Camden, and I'd be like, oh my God, I love this bookshop. Like one day I want to have my poetry book in this bookshop and I want to work here. Like that's the dream. And never in my 13-year-old self did I ever imagine that would be real. I was like, it was just a fantasy, you know, it was just something I was saying. I didn't think anything of it. This was after I started manifesting, or like being consciously aware of what manifestation was. I started applying for bookshop jobs in like WH Smith and Waterstones and stuff, and everyone was rejecting me. I was like, I've like got degrees upon degrees, I'm overqualified, but no one's taking me on. And maybe it was because I was overqualified, I don't know, but probably it was because I was wanting it too much. I kind of just at that point gave up on that idea, and I did a bunch of other things. I released a book and all of this other stuff. Little did I know that by following my intuition and following the present moment, because that's one key thing I learned. The reason why I started on this journey through presence was because the first realization I had was that, yeah, the past, the future isn't real. So if I want to create if I want to live true to myself, I didn't necessarily see it as creating my reality at that point, but if I want to live true to myself, and now I see it as that, and also if I want to create my reality, I need to just be present, and I need to just follow my intuition and guidance, because that will lead me. Even though I don't know how the hell finishing a draft for my book could possibly land me in Japan, which is what happened, the things that I want will continue if I just follow what it feels right. And so I was like, okay, I'm just gonna finish this book and release it, because that's what I've been working on and that's what I want to do. And so I did that. That was also some crazy manifestation stuff. And then I got the offer for the job in Japan, and I was like, okay, I have like 6 months between me releasing this book and me going to Japan. I want to get a proper job, something I can earn some money. I was looking so vehemently online, trying to find things and applying for things, and just getting stressed out about it, because I was like, I don't have that much time to play with before I go. All of a sudden, I'd wake up one day and I've meditated, and I've kind of said to myself, okay, you know what? I'm going to let this go today. I'm not going to think about this just for today. Just for today, I'm going to be totally present, and I'm going to be totally in my reality, and I'm just going to enjoy the things. I'm going to focus on the good things. I'm going to focus on a bird on a tree. I'm going to focus on, even if it's a cloudy day, the trees swaying in the wind. Just little things that I can choose to focus on that can just bring me out of that anxiety and that stress just for a second. And so I decided to do that. I decided to completely forget about it all and just go and hang out with my friend and just enjoy the day. And by doing that, that was the day that in the bookshop, when I was 13 years old, had said, this is where I want to work. That was the day that I walk into that shop, and I'm already on good terms with the guy who works there. We're already friends. We're hanging out. We're chilling. And then he's like to me, you know, if you're looking for a job, why don't you work here? And I'm like, hold up. That's the dream. So it was being in the receptive mode, it was being totally present that allowed that reality to come in. It wasn't anything else. It wasn't scripting, it wasn't affirming. Don't get me wrong, those things are great, but those things are only great because they put you in the mindset of that person that you can already be. And people make it so complicated, but it's not. If you can just be present, if you can just be totally in the now, those things will come. Because that's how you create. That's what we're all operating on, is this state of being present, is this state of being totally aware and surrendered, accepting. Because the thing is, if something bad happens, obviously it's going to be difficult to just accept and surrender. Like, of course it is. No one's going to sit there and be like, oh no, I crashed my car. Let me just be present and enjoy this. No. But what you can do is when you crash your car, you can be like, okay, I accept that this is my reality. I accept that this has happened. Maybe I could have, you know, in the future, I could have done this, I could have done that, whatever, that will happen. I can learn from this and how I could have done this differently, or been more present, or been more aware of what was going on, or I could have been slower, more hesitant, or I could have been less hesitant and been a bit more decisive while I was in the car. Either way, whatever lessons, I will learn them. But the point here is that I'm just going to accept that this is my reality. I'm just going to surrender to the fact that this is my reality. And yes, I might be feeling anxiety right now. I'm not going to negate that. I'm anxious. I'm stressed. I'm a bit scared. But I'm going to accept that this is what I'm experiencing, and I'm going to deal with the situation accordingly. And by having that strength of spirit to be able to just be like, okay, I accept and I can surrender to this moment as it is showing and presenting to me, that is where the power lies. I would love to finish with just a recentering and a regrounding into ourselves, because I think, as I've established, that's probably the most important thing, is to reground into our body. So if you would love to stay and join me for a little meditation, that would be great. I'd also like to mention that you can follow me on Instagram at Alia IDK, and you can also check out my services on my website. If you loved what I said, if you found any value in it, even just a little bit, even just a nugget, then please rate the podcast 5 stars. Like it, share it to anyone who you think might benefit from what I've said. And I really hope you have a blessed day. I want you to just take a moment to ground into yourself. Pay attention to anything you can see, smell, and just come into your body where you are right now. If it's safe to do so, you can close your eyes, unless you're driving, and then please don't. Just for now, simply sink in deeply to my words. Allow them to wash over you as you take deep breaths. Breathe in. Breathe out. Breathe in. Breathe out. Breathe in. Breathe out. Softly, slowly sink in to your senses. Fill up on serene blessings. Drifting inside you, breathe it in. Feel the pulsating oxygen sink deeper into your skin. Vapor white brushing every sense. Crimson jasper leaking out of every breath of incense. When thoughts provide purpose, utilize them. Know the difference between inspired action and fearful consequence. It is easy to get lost in the chatter of our mind. Sit in remembrance that thinking is simply a vice, transporting you back to the only moment that is real, the present existence of the eternal now and its power to heal. Close your eyes and feel the soul of a tree, life breath into each leaf, to bring vivid auburn and ruby stemming the tip of emerald feathers, inside festering a body still so strong. Water is ever fluctuating. Each new perspective creates a quantum shift. What was once real will be gone once again. Step into the opium waterfall. Let perception melt into stars, sequencing spirals that always go back to one form. Greatness, omnipotence, delight. The ripples drifting like fragments of glass, broken into tiny fractures. Now you become the rainbow fox, creeping along the shallow riverbank, rustling leaves like blankets of droplets. Each footsteps treading so softly, if you blinked, the sound would escape you. The mahogany raven perches on the twiglet of a branch, delicately tracing its feathers on the surface, water rippling underneath its whispers. The soft brush of wind, smooth paintbrush of ocean. If you hold onto faith for just a little longer, wondrous things await. The piercing black eyes stared deeply before it leapt onto the glistening river, softly tracing its footsteps in circular motion, bounced from the blackest pebbles until it could no longer be found. You sigh, breath of wind into presence.